Thanks for being here in the lab. I'm your host, Miriam Allred. I'm here today with one of our show sponsors, the Home Care CPAs. On the show, I put our guests and their operations under the microscope, so I wanted to do the same with our sponsors so you could get to know them a little bit better. So here's a quick mini FAQ-style podcast with Dana Charumbira, the managing director at the Home Care CPAs. Dana, how are you doing?
I'm good. Thanks, Miriam.
I'm excited for this quick call together. I've got about 5 questions for you, and we're going to aim for about 5 minutes. So let's get right down to it. The first question is, what are the top 3 financial mistakes you see some home care businesses make, and how do you help them solve for that?
So I think one that we see quite often is someone focuses they zone in on like one aspect of financial performance, whether that's cash flow or profitability, rather than taking a step back and looking at how those impact each other. Another one that we see often is when owners start to grow or their agency starts to grow, they start to spend more. So they add people, they add headcount, they just see a little bit of cash. And so that starts to really inspire them, I guess, to make decisions related to the financials without really thinking about like the true ability to afford some of it. And then I would say the third one is really just not, and this isn't really a mistake, but maybe just not like really digging into the financials, looking at your revenue in like a segmented way and a more methodical way. So by payer source or by referral source, a lot of agencies don't do that, and then they lose a lot of insight that can help them shape their agency.
Okay, that was great. Another question that you probably get quite a bit that I want to ask is why should an agency pick you all, the home care CPAs, over going with maybe their local CPA?
Yeah, that's a good question. The industry specific feedback we can give clients is hugely valuable. So helping them understand what their gross margin is doing compared to other agencies, national and geographic trends, and then really other industry trends around some of the overhead spend that we see. We're able to give feedback and just knowledge that we also glean from the Activated Insights benchmarking report. We're able to layer that onto the financials to give clients more insight, not only into their agency and how it's performing, but into like the industry as a whole.
Yeah, which is huge when it comes to home care. There's a lot of nuances, and so having that
Yeah.
industry knowledge is invaluable. You work with a lot of different businesses of a lot of different sizes and shapes, but what's the profile of a home care agency that you're seeing the biggest success with your services?
Yeah, so we do, we support agencies pre-revenue all the way up to like 10, 15 million. And really, like you said, there's something that every agency or owner can benefit from working with us. I would say just in an owner profile in general, the ones that engage with us more, that like have the conversation, want to talk about their financials, they tend to see the most success and benefit from the relationship. If we think about revenue size, I would say like 1.5 million all the way up to like 8 million. I mean, you're really still kind of going through growing pains, especially as you're growing. A lot of that growth goes to payroll. So you're like, where's the cash? Like, what's going on? So anytime an agency is growing and expanding, once you're steady state and you have your operations in place, maybe not as reliant, but then you might be thinking about expansion geographically or potential sales. So I would say in that range, but really anytime an agency is going through some sort of growing pain, it's really helpful to have us on board.
Okay. I love that question you asked. Where is the cash going? I bet most owners and operators are asking themselves that, which is reason to reach out to Dana. I know you're a big fan of KPIs and do a lot of tracking and benchmarking for your clients. What are the top 3 financial KPIs for a home care business?
I think there's, your sort of standard that everybody's looking at, like gross margin, net income, or return on sales are popular. We tend to dig a lot into like day sales outstanding, which is a measure of like how quickly you're getting paid, which is a function of your receivables and sales. And that goes back to like, where is all the cash going? Or when you're growing, you're like, hey, especially just depending on your payer source mix, like, when am I going to get paid? So that gives us a really good pulse on that. And a lot of times owners aren't, they're thinking about the day to day, or they're thinking about like making payroll. So that just kind of gives us this high level view of like, hey, it's taking you 30 days to get paid. Just let's keep that in mind as we're growing. So DSO is a big one that we look at. We also look at like client additions and attrition by different payer sources for clients, which is really interesting because you can see like how does that consume your overhead resources with like scheduling and onboarding. It also helps with some planning as well. And then KPIs also that we've started to dig more into are like around your referral sources. So into Google, so spend on digital marketing, I should say in general, just seeing the ROI on that. And then also some of the activity by referral source. So referral source numbers, referral source activity, which is helps tie back to growth, especially sometimes as we're seeing private pay a little bit stagnant in some areas.
Yeah, super useful. This is exactly the reason you need to work with a CPA because it's a lot of numbers and it's a lot to track and it's a lot to dig into. And as
Yeah.
an owner, you have a lot of different decisions and a lot of different directions, and sometimes the finances are put on the back burner. But the KPIs that you just stated are the reason to have a partner dig into this with you. So that was great. Give us a quick taste of one of your biggest success stories, an owner or operator that you've worked with for a period of time that you've seen them grow and you've helped them scale.
Yeah, yeah. So we've been working with an agency, the one that comes to mind, and because they're doing all the things I kind of just touched on, and I think it's really contributed to their growth. And we worked with them closely along the way. So we started working with them. They were like probably maybe 20 grand in revenue, and then they're over 2 million, expanding to another location. And really, that agency has just embraced like the feedback and the metrics. And, we're very diligent about talking with them every month, giving them their reporting every month. The owner has made a point of really incentivizing the staff and helping them understand what metrics can they tie their work to. So for example, keeping an eye on average pay rate per hour was something that we do for our clients, and then engaging their scheduling and recruiting team in that to help them drive towards a number that helps the agency grow in a sustainable way. And then also, pulling that back when it starts to creep in a different direction, keeping a close eye on receivables with them. So, and referral source and digital marketing activity. So that's an agency that I would say has really just opened themselves up to like, hey, what are we doing? What can we do better? And they are always listening. We're engaging. We have back and forth. It's just, I would say, one of our clients that has been a great example of what having a true like financial partner can do for growth. And it gives them the confidence, when they're thinking about making a move, they have that sounding board that they might not have had if it was just, the same three people talking about it. So we bring a different perspective, and really thankful for that relationship. They're a lot of fun to work with.
That was great. Thank you for sharing. And I'm sure there's a lot more that you could share, but we'll leave it at that. One last question that I like to ask each sponsor. What's something important that people don't know about you or about the home care CPAs?
I would say one of the things that is really unique about like the work we do and our mindset, and even with our values, if you look at our values, the one that always stands out to me is curiosity. And that, I would say, touches like a lot of the work we do. So we're very curious about like what's going on with their clients' numbers and what's going on with their the things that go into those numbers and make them up. And as a part of that, like we're very curious about technology and how technology can support us in automation. So I say we're a progressive firm, which can sound like a buzzword, but really that means that we're leaning into things that make lives easier for our clients, for our staff, and for the industry as a whole. And I think a lot of that is just due to like the diverse work culture that we have. We have a lot of people with different backgrounds. We have billing, payroll, accounting, we have analytics. So all of us coming together is a really cool back and forth and like challenging each other's ideas on like the status quo. And I just think a lot of that comes from exposure to, different lifestyles and different experiences. So that's something that you won't find with the traditional CPA firm for the most part. There's a small group of us that are like that. So I'm grateful for having that staff component and the clients that are also leaning into a lot of the changes that we're making.
Awesome. That was fantastic, Dana. Thank you so much for joining me for this quick podcast. And thank you to the Home Care CPAs for sponsoring the Home Care Strategy Lab. Tune into the show every week wherever you get your podcasts, and reach out to the Home Care CPAs by filling out the form on this page. Thanks so much, Dana.
Thanks, Miriam. Thanks for the invite.